Good morning. Lovely to see you all here today. The End of Life Companionship Programme is a collaboration between the Centre for the Art of Dying Well, based here at St Mary's, and the St Vincent de Paul Society, England and Wales, which from now on the SVP. The mission for the Centre for the Art of Dying Well, Maggie's just mentioned, but it brings together so many of the best minds and partners with organisations and individuals to support and develop companionship and community, both in life and in death. I've really enjoyed working with the Centre for some years now. The SVP has been active in the UK since 1844, so a real history. Inspired by the example of St Vincent de Paul, members, of which there are now some 10,000 in the UK, commit to turn concern into action. They serve the poor, the most needy, the most vulnerable in society. And they call these people beneficiaries. You're going to hear that word today. They combat poverty and isolation. They provide practical help and friendship. Support for the dying, for the sick, and for those who surround them is just integral to that portfolio of services. There we go, that's the SVP. The End of Life Companionship Programme offers introductory training for SVP members, but for other people as well, to better equip them to be alongside people approaching the end of their life, whether they be family, friends, parishioners, or people in the local community, and whatever their faith or not. Starting in March 2021, we've been delivering training online in 3 one-hour interactive sessions. And next week we start course 26. Sessions include video interviews with the lovely Julie Etchingham, and these capture lived experience of providing companionship in hospitals and other settings to give our trainees an insight into the opportunities available. You'll be hearing from John later. John is one of the videos of the training course. And there's also a downloadable workbook, which allows opportunities for reference and reflection. 3 sessions explore approach to death and dying, relevant Catholic and Vincentian values, and thirdly, opportunities for service, volunteering. Participants who provide 3 short reflective assignments at the end of this get a certificate of completion. I must say at this point, what a privilege it's been to work with the SVP members, who are without exception committed and compassionate. Some have significant professional and or personal experience in this field, and for others the topic might have been new or slightly intimidating. But surprisingly few have ticked that box on the last assignment. This is not for me. And that's very exciting. Working with volunteers has been a learning curve for me. Obviously, their commitment to existing beneficiaries and to their own family, friends, and all the other things that these amazing people do takes precedence. So sometimes it's prevented them from completing a course. But then how can I protest when they apologise for not being there because they're sitting with someone who's dying? It's a no-brainer. Their natural humility means that they don't always appreciate, let alone feedback to us, the value. End of life is a broad term, but my impression is that the SVP experience so far includes the aged and the frail. Not necessarily last days and hours of life, but those who would fit neatly into that category of the general practice surprise question. Would you be surprised if this person died in the next 12 months or so? It's valuable work, it really is. And I'm so proud to hear the stories that are now coming back of what they've been doing. But enough from me. Now Alejandra, our programme coordinator, who's been absolutely central to this project, will tell you a bit more. Thank you.
Before I get into the outcomes of the project, I would like to share a little bit about our target audience, the SVP members. So think about SVP members as extremely charitable individuals, offering practical support to their communities, whether it's organizing programs for the homeless in the area or offering companionship to a neighbor living in isolation. When they see a need not being met, they organize themselves to give a helping hand. And it's not surprising that as soon as we told them about the Untitled Companionship project, we had so many people interested. So far, we have organized 25 courses and we have trained over 200 people, out of which 167 said they would like to be end-of-life companions. Recently, 104 thought they would like to offer their service in their local community. The remaining 63 felt more drawn to volunteering in hospitals, and local and care homes. With at least 3 people applying to Marie Curie, there is also a group of 5 people who are currently in touch with the Royal Trinity Hospice. Most participants filling in the feedback survey claimed they were very satisfied with the course. As you can see from the graphic, 81% gave 5 stars to the course, 18% gave 4 stars, and only 1% gave 3 stars. We had also other unexpected outcomes. A group of volunteers, for example, they organize a bereavement service in the local community. So every 2 Sundays, they are welcoming and supporting a group of 14 bereaved people. This group is growing slowly. Another member, Ella, told everyone in the community she did the end-of-life companionship first. She received a call one day from a beneficiary asking her to come to the hospital. She didn't ask any questions. And we all thought it was going to be an end-of-life companionship situation. But it turned out that she was actually asked to be a companion for a beginning of life experience. The beneficiary was actually having a baby. We don't think that would have happened if she didn't do the course and if she didn't tell her local community that she was ready to volunteer at hospitals. I am very proud the program has empowered participants not only to pursue end-of-life companionship roles, but also has inspired them to be creative and meet other needs in their communities. They also felt drawn to learn more about that by signing up for courses like the end-of-life care, challenges of innovation, the Great Companion course, and of course, Reading with the End in Mind by Catherine Manning. It has been an enormous privilege to work with SVP members and hear back the stories they report back to us. They remind me every day that meaningful changes can start when a seed is sown, even if the growth is slow initially. There isn't a better way to get to know the work than talking to them. So now we will have the opportunity to hear from volunteers who have done the course and the experiences they went through. And later on, we will hear from one of our SVP volunteers himself, Luke Fernandez, who is with us today. So we're going to do a video.
Going into this as a complete novice, I felt I needed to know more and to learn more. And with each experience, each was different. So I learned lots more skills about what was available in terms of help and support. I really wanted to try and make a difference in my local community because I knew there were hundreds, thousands of people out there like myself who were experiencing this for the first time.
First of all, it began with when, following the death of my mother about 8 or 9 years ago, I volunteered in my local hospice, just really chatting to people, making them cups of tea, and just finding out and just being with people.
The family were there, and they had asked for somebody to come and be with their son, and I know quite an older man, and they were very appreciative that there was somebody else to be with him in his last hours, as they knew they were the last hours.
Okay, my first encounter with someone who died was way back when I was 25, and I was living with and caring for my grandmother, and I was with her when she died. And It was a very peaceful death, and I look back at it with great fondness. Although we were extremely close and losing her was quite painful, my faith reassured me that this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of her life with God.
We're all going the same way, and if I were in that position, I would like to have somebody who was holding my hand or being with me or sharing my story or listening to the things that I've had in my life. Patience to be able to know how or where people are in their stages of grief.
But I've also learned that sometimes it's fine just to be there, that some people don't need you to say anything, they just want somebody there.
What I've learned is I've been on a training course of how to approach the end of your life, because with each person I learn something new. There's a whole range of things, because each person is so different and unique, that when you are with them as they come towards the end of their life, you learn so much.
This gives you an idea of the setting in which I work at St. Vincent's Community Centre in Brighton, the end-of-life companionship, where I'm a lead volunteer. Our house has been described as Brighton's finest example of an Edwardian building, built in 1902 for the royal jeweller to King Edward VII. A Grade 2 listed building because of its architectural and historical importance. Well, this is the community face of end-of-life companionship, where we support older, isolated people in the evening of their lives. We have a vision and an aim. Our vision is to create a holistic place for older people for their health and well-being. And our aim is to build relationships in a safe setting that gives them hope and ends their isolation. How do we do this? We do this by providing lunches, activities, and services. These include a free library, minibus transport for those who need it, and one day of the week is devoted to people with dementia, which we call a memory day. And our activities range from arts and crafts on the one hand, to quizzes, a raffle, music, talks, and armchair exercises to improve their breathing and mobility. So we try to cater holistically for everyone, not only their physical health and well-being, but also their mental health and well-being, which includes the services of Arthur Cancer, who runs a well-being support group. This slide shows examples of story records that I shared with the research team that John Darnay will talk about in a moment, to understand the value of our companionship. And I asked our beneficiaries a simple question. What do you see or think is the most important part of my companionship with you? And I've shown here 3 examples of Mandy, Terry, and Charlotte, whose names have been anonymized to maintain confidentiality. And after a very brief introductory paragraph, these are the conclusions that I have recorded on this slide. Mandy, who's a young 99 and still bright as the button, adds, during the 2 years of the pandemic, you have been my lifesaver, my anchor and hope in that stormy sea of sadness. I'm now enjoying happier days seeing you in person. And Terry, also in her 90s, reflects on our companionship. To me, she says, you have been a beacon of light, shining God's love for us all, the sunshine in my life. And Starlet, who's 93, heartwarmingly concludes, your continuing kindness and caring as a companion cheer me up and lift my spirits when I feel low. As you can imagine, such heartfelt gratitude for our work inspires me to continue our work as voluntary end-of-life companions. This is my final slide of a picture of dear old Tucker, who's a wise man of 97, who died last year and gave me the opportunity of putting my theoretical skills into practice. Referring to communities, to the Townhouse Community Centre, he said, "This is my first heaven. Everyone is so kind and friendly. It's a little taste of what heaven is." As you can imagine, I'm sure even St. Vincent de Paul in his heavenly abode would approve such a lovely sentiment.
Okay.
Thank you.
So my name's John Downey, and I'm a senior lecturer in public health down in Plymouth Marjon. And I was sort of invited to be part of this team to do the evaluation side of it. I just want to again take the opportunity to sort of thank the team for inviting me to take part. I think it's had a massive impression on my own view of death, and hearing people's stories and observing and taking part was really sort of eye-opening. So it was really useful. So today, conscious that Lynn and Alejandra have put some constraints on me, good thing, because I tend to go off on tangents. I'm just going to give you a little bit of a preamble on the approach we took, where we are, and then spend the most of the time telling you what the sort of data is sort of saying. The reason I was invited was because I've got a specific interest in sort of non-traditional evaluation. And what the team recognized and really valued was the fact that companionship can't really do the whole pre-post evaluation for numerous reasons. One is the complexity of it. These people are not offering standardized practice. It's very flexible and tailored to the person, and they don't occupy usual spaces, let alone the fact that the sort of benefits they might be gaining are not as easy as capturing them on a survey, for example. So what we sort of came to the conclusion was we were going to look at a realist evaluation, which tries to pull together ideas of what works for whom and what circumstances and why. So all the words we're starting to hear around peace and trust and reverence and kindness and care, it's like we have this cauldron of terms, but actually, what do beneficiaries gain? What do beneficiaries gain? Why do they gain those things? And what are the conditions that are important? Next slide, please. So what have we done? Well, there's two big phases to a realist evaluation. There is proposing these ideas. Why do we think these work? And then there's the testing the ideas. And Luke's already started to share with you some of the testing from the patient's voice to verify or refine or confirm why we think this works. But the data I'm going to share with you now is the first phase. So through observation and taking part in meetings and ongoing catch-ups, by appraising and analysing certain documents, key documents, and by actually sitting down with a range of stakeholders to propose and interview why we think this works. If we go to the next slide, I'll just run through why we think companionship works and what needs to be in place. So the key kind of areas are being present. So what does that mean? So basically, if the volunteers are offering an attentive presence, which is reassuring and sensitive to the person's needs, And they have the appropriate attributes to do that. So whether that's skill or whether that is authenticity, and there's a range of things within those attributes that are important. So if this attentive presence is offered to people, it seems to increase hope and human connectedness, feeling cared for and supported and connected to another human increases hope, which seems to, and I put these in inverted commas, help people die well. Now that is a very contentious term, but what does that mean in this research? Well, people talked about comfort and peace and just feeling less lonely and frightened. So that we have these unique parts to companionship. So if we go to the next slide, so the first one is being present. The second one deals with this position they might take. So they're not family, they're not part of the clinical team, and that seems to be an important condition which offers the dying person a voice, and they feel better prepared for death. And again, in inverted commas, because it's quite a contentious term, but better prepared for death includes things like coping, acceptance, and less distress. And how they get that is through this platform giving them agency, increased capability, and the opportunity to resolve some concerns they may have. So we're building these causal configurations that we will test in the final phase of the research. Next slide, Alejandra, please. Being a loving friend then is a little bit different than the presence. So this is the actual process of, again, if we have these attributes to be person-centered, holistic, and authentic, and we offer this loving friendship, this genuine care for this person in front of me, people will live well until they die. And I think Luke already sort of, the stories he gave kind of might offer some verification of this, by feeling less abandoned and less distressed, and death is normalized. And they actually, some of the outcomes they have is they feel greater self-acceptance and joy. And that seems to, we get those outcomes through this being acknowledged and having that dignity maintained. And lastly, as I can say, I'm a little bit over. So this might be unique to the SVP model, but also a unique part that could be coming out of the data was this support beyond the dying phase, this wraparound support, whether it be respite, advocacy, practical stuff. And that seems to help people die with a greater peace of mind. So that what that means is less guilt, more certainty and empowerment. That's the outcome they get. And this seems to get that greater peace of mind by having their wishes attended to and have advocacy and feeling relief that those around them who will be grieving will be looked after and be attended to. So they can kind of, this is okay, I'm okay to go now. And they seem to be the unique theory areas that we've proposed for the first phase of the research, which then will be verified through lived experience of companions, and the voice of the patient themselves. Thank you.
Very important. These are precious moments, precious hours, and the aim is to feel that they are at peace when they die, not to have anxieties going on in their mind, but to put things right.
But they may have things to talk about that are very personal to them. And this person who died eventually was somebody who I thought was of no faith. And at the very end said, could you say the rosary with me? I didn't know that until the family had gone out of the room. And she said, I couldn't tell my family that that's really what I wanted. I'd lost my faith, and they wouldn't have understood what my wishes were.
One point during the night, I let go of her hand, and immediately she was different. And I took the hand back and she was calm again. So it was kind of a real experience that for me to know that even though when they're unconscious to us, or seem to be, that they still know that there's someone there. And also I think it's the last gift, the last service that we can give to one another, either to someone we love or to someone we merely know as an acquaintance.
the first step is to do some training. By doing training, you get to grips with whether this is something that feels right for you, that you feel you could participate in and be part of. But there's nothing like actually giving it a go and trying it.
Importantly, I think the most important thing is to treat them as you would want your own family member to be treated.
And I just say to them, please do it, because it really does bring rewards and you won't regret it.